It was 2:17 in the morning when I picked up my final load for the night. I had been driving trucks for 12 years, and nothing ever scared me on the road. But the package waiting at the shipping yard that night would change my life forever. The dispatcher handed me a small wooden crate. It wasn't heavy, but it felt strangely cold. There was no shipping company label, no barcode, and no destination address. On the top, only 3 words were written: "Deliver before sunrise." I looked at the dispatcher and laughed. I asked where the delivery was supposed to go. The man suddenly became serious. He looked around nervously and said, "Just keep driving north. You'll know when you get there." I placed the crate on the passenger seat and started my engine. As I pulled onto the highway, I noticed something strange. The temperature inside the cab suddenly dropped, and my windshield began to fog from the inside. About an hour later, my radio crackled with static. Then I heard a deep voice whisper, "Don't stop the truck." I grabbed the radio and asked who was there. The voice didn't answer. It simply repeated the same warning. I turned the radio off, but a few seconds later, it switched back on by itself. The same deep voice whispered again, "Don't stop. Keep driving north." A cold chill ran down my spine. For the first time that night, I felt like I wasn't alone in the truck. I checked my mirrors and almost hit the brakes. Far behind me, a pair of headlights appeared out of nowhere. An old black truck was following me. I was sure it hadn't been there a few seconds earlier. I drove faster. The black truck matched my speed perfectly. I slowed down. It slowed down too. No matter what I did, it stayed the same distance behind me. Then I noticed something even stranger. I couldn't see a driver inside. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. I looked back at the road and tried to calm myself. Maybe the darkness was playing tricks on my eyes. Then I heard a soft knocking sound coming from the wooden crate on the passenger seat. I looked at the crate and held my breath. The knocking stopped. Then very slowly, the lid moved upward by less than an inch. I nearly swerved off the road. Before I could react, the radio crackled once more. The radio came alive with loud static. Then the deep voice returned. This time it sounded urgent. "Do not open the crate. Whatever happens, keep driving." I stared at the box, my heart pounding so hard that I could hear it over the engine. I reached for the crate but stopped halfway. The air inside the cab had become freezing cold. My breath was visible now. Then I heard something impossible. A slow heartbeat was coming from inside the box. Thump, thump, thump. The sound was slow and heavy, like a giant heart beating in complete darkness. Every beat seemed to shake the floor beneath my feet. I wanted to throw the crate out the window, but somehow I couldn't touch it. Suddenly, the black truck behind me blasted its horn. The sound was deafening. I looked into the mirror and nearly screamed. The truck was much closer now, and a dark figure was standing on its roof. The figure had no face. It was tall, impossibly thin, and completely black. It didn't move. It simply stood there, staring directly at me. Then it slowly raised one hand and pointed toward the wooden crate beside me. My hands were shaking so badly that I could barely keep the truck on the road. I looked away from the mirror for only a second. When I looked back, the figure on top of the black truck was gone. A cold sensation crept over my shoulder. I slowly turned my head toward the passenger seat. My blood ran cold. The faceless figure was now sitting beside the wooden crate, perfectly still, looking directly at me. I slammed the brakes. The tires screamed against the road. The truck skidded across the icy highway and finally stopped. I looked at the passenger seat again. The shadow figure had disappeared. The engine was still running, but everything else was silent. No wind, no radio, no heartbeat from the crate. I thought it was finally over. Then I noticed something outside my window. Hundreds of footprints surrounded the truck. They appeared to come from the forest on both sides of the highway. But there was one terrifying detail. Every footprint stopped right beside my truck, as if something was standing there and watching me. I locked all the doors and rolled up the windows, even though they were already closed. My heart was racing. Then, from somewhere outside, I heard a slow knock. 3 taps. Then silence. A few seconds later, another 3 taps came from the opposite side of the truck. Knock, knock, knock. The sound kept moving around the truck. First the driver's door, then the passenger door, then the back of the trailer. Whatever was outside wasn't walking. It was circling me. I grabbed my flashlight and looked through the side window. At first, I saw nothing. Then I noticed a shape standing near the trailer. It was extremely tall and unnaturally thin. It looked almost human, except its arms hung nearly to the ground. The creature slowly lifted its head. I couldn't see its face, but I knew it was staring directly at me. Then it raised one long arm and pointed toward the wooden crate sitting on my passenger seat. At that exact moment, the wooden crate began to shake violently. The heartbeat returned, louder than before. Thump, thump, thump. Then something inside the box scratched against the lid, as if it was desperately trying to get out. I pressed myself against the driver's door and stared at the crate. The scratching became louder and faster. Then I heard something that froze my blood. A voice from inside the box quietly whispered, "Help me." The voice sounded like a little girl. She was crying softly. She kept repeating the same words. "Please let me out." Every instinct told me to open the crate, but the warning on the radio echoed in my mind. "Do not open it." I closed my eyes and tried to ignore the crying. Suddenly, the truck's headlights went out. The dashboard lights died. The engine stopped. I was sitting in complete darkness in the middle of nowhere. Then I heard footsteps, slow footsteps crunching through the snow. They came from every direction at once. I looked through the windshield and saw shadows moving between the trees. One by one, the shadows emerged from the forest. There were dozens of them, tall, thin figures with no faces. They slowly surrounded my truck and stood perfectly still, all staring toward the wooden crate. None of the figures moved. They simply stood there around my truck, silent and motionless. Then, at the exact same time, every faceless head slowly turned toward me. I suddenly felt like I was trapped inside a nightmare. The wooden crate began shaking so violently that it nearly fell off the seat. The heartbeat inside it was now deafening. Thump, thump, thump. Then the lid slowly opened by itself, and a freezing wind filled the cab. A glowing red light rose from inside the box. Then something dark and wet slowly lifted out of it. It was a massive beating heart. Thick black veins covered its surface, and every beat made the entire truck tremble. Outside the truck, every shadow figure suddenly dropped to its knees. The old black truck appeared at the front of my vehicle. Its driver's door slowly opened. A tall figure stepped out and began walking toward the beating heart. The shadow figure reached the truck and placed one hand on the floating heart. The heartbeat stopped instantly. Every shadow outside disappeared. The black truck faded into the darkness. Then I looked down and found a note lying on the seat beside me. It contained only 3 words. "Your delivery is complete." I never drove that highway again, but sometimes late at night my radio still turns on by itself, and a deep voice whispers, "Another delivery is waiting."